Hello everyone, and welcome back to today's webinar. It's not the first one. It's only we have a few already, actually. But first, let me introduce myself once again. My name is Stefania Cesorano from Namis Technologies. I'll be responsible for hosting you through this webinar today. I'm waiting a little bit for others coming in. Meantime, I will briefly explain the program. After introduction of today's speaker, Philip Oswald, hi. He will take us into the amazing world of digitalization. Close to the bacteria, I love digitalization for labs and the benefit you get afterwards. We are all here because we are a part of the food safety community, and yes, digitalization is a part of it. Let's see why. So please interact and be a part of the webinar and submit your questions in the chat room. After the presentation, there will be a Q&A session as usual. I will try to get to all of them, questions on this webinar, so that Philip can answer them. Hopefully there are a lot of questions. And if I do not get to all your questions, as we have limited time, there will be a QA on the Namis Academy website. So now I hope there are a lot attendees already. So now our topic today is 4 steps to successful digitalization of quality management in the food industry. I am sure we will learn a lot from Philip on that topic. And by the way, I already did it. So Philip, please go on. Who are you? And then you're welcome to do the presentation.
Heartily thanks, Stefania, for this very warming and calming introduction. So thanks very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to share insights from volumes and from our purpose, what we are doing, and also from our best practice and knowledge about lab digitalization and lab automation. So what we are going to do and what I'm going to present to you today is having some insights about lab digitalization itself. So what that means exactly is, let me see here. So now we got it. Now you can see my screen. So what does it mean to have these 4 steps? That should kind of be a guide, what to do before to start a digitalization, what to think of, what can be the challenges before a digitalization, during a digitalization, and afterwards. And to bring you closer to that topic and give you some insights and also best practice knowledge to this kind of topic, we have prepared an agenda. So first of all, we want to share some random challenges, or the most common challenges in the lab today, what we face. The second point is the data and the workflow about the digitalization. Afterwards, the benefits and the added value by a successful digitalization, and at the end, a continuous improvement and how to implement such a mindset and a tool. Very shortly, introduction from my side. I'm a skilled and passionate lab technician with biomedical engineering and environmental engineering skills. I co-founded OneLimbs, and I'm right now the CEO. And we digitalize and automate labs all around the world. And we consult them in the first stage to find the proper solution, to find the bottlenecks, to detect and to streamline the best way of processes, to set up the environment for the proper digitalization, and afterwards we take them on the journey of a continuous improvement. All this together in a very close collaboration with the lab team. So let's get started. What kind of the key takeaways for today? First of all, to understand the quality and laboratory processes and their importance of interactions. So where are the highways and the interconnectivities, internal lab, quality control, quality assurance. Then the risk and opportunities in quality and in laboratory during a digitalization project. And last, the advantages and the added value of successfully implemented digitalization and automated quality control laboratory and about their operations. So first of all, to start with the second slide about the basics of our overall quality processes. So there are kind of we face some confusions if we talk to clients and to other professionals about these terms or terminology. So quality control is a term which is focusing only on the product. What kind of quality does the product have? How are we going to conduct this quality and how we can make sure this quality is right? So this is all about the focus is here about the product this manufacturing company is producing. Or if we're talking about a service laboratory, it's all about the quality of the test results itself. So the next level or layer is focusing on the process, and it's called quality assurance. And this makes sure that the devices that we are using for the quality control are calibrated, are functional right. The processes we have in place, like the environmental monitoring, is valid and is correct in that way of the processes itself. And the third level is the performance itself, and it covers all the other two segments. It includes all the other two segments. It's called quality management. So we have, in quality management, we have these two levels of quality, like assurance and control. And these are, in a lot of companies, two different pair of shoes, like kind of two different departments. They have two different focuses. And also, this leads to different requirements and needs. So the most challenges we face in the lab every day together with clients are kind of, some of them are related. You can maybe see it already on the right on some kind of these examples we're talking here about, and I will present to you a real life case where we started the digitalization, we analyzed the basics, we optimize the operations, we implemented step by step, and at the end we see real life benefits and how the key performance indicators of this quality control lab changed during the course of the implementation. But back to the main challenges we face together with the lab employees day by day. So first of all, our operation is itself. They are highly error prone and complex. So there are a lot of media breaks. There are a lot of copy and pasting, copying data from paper into an Excel, share the Excel, send reports, creating reports by Word, create a PDF, sign them, send them by mail. There are a lot of manual steps in between which can causing some errors. The next are, as also mentioned in the first point, are fragmented, unstructured, and silent data. So labs produces even more data than a couple of years ago. Every device produces a lot of data. Most of this data are kind of a computer, are in a lab journal, are on any kind of SharePoint, and are not connected to each other. And the worst thing is that they are even not the same structure. That means to elaborate and evaluate those data, it needs a lot of effort to bring them on the same page and starting to evaluate this data. This is the next point because of the not connectivity or insufficient connectivity of different devices, different systems internally of the company. So that, for instance, the ERP is not connected to a QMS system or to a logistics system or even to an MES. And this makes also media discontinuities and causing error points and also failures in a lot of data sets. Also, a problem here is the traceability. This means a lack over the control of the data flow. We don't know where this data is coming from. Are they annotated data, unchanged data, or is there kind of any changed data in between? Is this number, value, result that I see, can I trust them? Where is it coming from? Who did the analysis and who did the validation and so on? So kind of the traceability and also the tracking of the data is highly complex, error-prone, and also needs a lot of effort to bring them and can track them on a way for an audit that makes sense and is easy to use for the lab itself. So all of these points need a lot of time. And this causing in a lab, a quality control, service lab, quality assurance, time is equals money. And as more money is burned and less efficient at the end is the laboratory, and as more expensive is the single analysis they are doing in the lab itself. So there's, at today's lab, there is another problem. We face them in between of the last points, is a heterogeneous zoo of different devices a lab technician is using. And these devices don't speak to each other. They are disconnected. And here is also the problem of the tracking of the data and also of the capacity planning, work planning in laboratories, which needs also a lot of time to do the capacity planning of the devices and the lab team itself. And how we can ensure and increase this capacity and how we can make the planning more efficient, I will show you after a couple of slides. So a standard situation in a lab is that mostly labs face the problems of uncoordinated work and not defined instructions, how to do several most important steps. This leads to a daily stressful lab environment. A lot of labs deal with several data sources. That means multiple Excel sheets. Have the problem to find the right data, copy and paste them in an evaluation sheet, or find the source of the correct data. This is time-consuming data management at best. Also, that there is no strict and regulated analysis, kind of a defined test plan for defined article or a product. What exactly is to analyze and what kind of specification is it needed? So this is also kind of a bigger challenge. This leads to confusion and higher workload because it's done more work than is actually needed for an approval of a specific product or an article. Also the instructions, in this case, it's needed in 3 different languages, is leading to a more complex communication, more kind of soft skills in that case. What is also a root cause for further confusion. What we have also in here is how to set the right priorities in a laboratory. Which kind of analysis is more important than another? How we define the express and the highest priority analysis in a laboratory, which is also a highly discussed topic around in the lab. So all of these causes leads to different problems within kind of the stakeholder, which receiving at worst case the wrong results. And they question them. Can they trust the results they get from the quality control or the service lab? Then the internal bashing starts to finger pointing on the lab that they're doing a bad or a wrong job. They don't know what to do. And the results are not taken seriously. This is very important and very critical topic within the lab. And if they are going with a lab report or a certificate of analysis, creating to send to your stakeholders or to clients, that they question the results or getting even the wrong results is also a very bad sign for unstructured and unsupervised work in a laboratory. How we can improve this? What we face with our client in this real-life case is a very specific problem or challenge are handwritten labels. So we know labs, they had, for instance, 20,000 samples per day. They started by handwritten labels very early in the morning to prepare the samples with the labels. And it could be that how fast you have to write your labels that you, after a couple of minutes or hours, you can't remember what you actually written. And even another person in the lab don't know exactly what does this label mean. A highly number of samples, like kind of high sample throughput in quality control labs or service labs can be, they are not labeled. This is highly challenging to get a structured work and to get this in a controlled way, to have all your samples written in the same way. And the worst case also that some samples get lost or even have no labels, no trace, no track, no status. And all of these, they are somewhere, and then there is a high priority and look through what kind of sample you're looking for, you're lost. And we face this a lot about this kind of three most important challenges we have with this client. As background information, we're talking here about one of the biggest meat production and suppliers in Switzerland, which we started digitalizing together in the quality control and step-by-step implementing 10 sub companies which are deliverers or suppliers to this big meat manufacturer, and integrated those seamlessly without any media breaks to give it one centralized quality control laboratory within 2 years. Okay, let's have a look on the data and the workflow itself. What we use at OneLIMS is our unique method to bring a digitalization, lab digitalization project to a successful end. And how we start this is by analyzing the most important operations by using Lean Six Sigma tools. I will show also some examples a couple of slides later. So a ground in-depth assessment is crucial for the requirements, for the quantification, for a process map, and to define where the bottlenecks are, what kind of KPIs there are actually in the lab, and what is the goal and the future state of this laboratory. Next is some optimization, streamlining together with the laboratory to look and challenge at the actual operations. In best case, to streamline them, to make them more efficient, and to bring and include a mindset of continuous improvement. In the third phase, then we start thinking of implementing a tool like a OneLIMS platform, where we're starting to covering the streamline or digitalizing the streamline processes into our platform. And after a while, by getting used to it, we're starting to automate the routine work and, most important, the value-adding operations. And the last phase of this whole implementation cycle is then the care and the improving of the actual state. Care means also care and support, what I also will give some words about the fourth phase afterwards. How an analyze can or assessment in the lab can look like, and how we going to proceed this. It starts with a holistic analysis together with the lab team, on site in this case, with a Gemba walk through the value chain to get a feeling about how this company is working, how the operations is done, what kind of mindset is already on a daily basis, and to identify the potential synergies and the opportunities of the improvements itself. Then the involvement of the employees is a very important task to bring the employees, include them at the first stage of the implementation, to bring them on the same page, speak the same language, to improve the communication skills, and to give them the feeling they're heard and they are part of the journey. With all of these 2 points together, they can all be defined customized requirements based on the actual status quo and the future state. It can be done already prepared tailor-made implementation and the optimized approaches based on the available resources of the lab. And this leads to a fast implementation with all of the 3 topics before. Can be done a very rapid roadmap for the implementation and kind of the product market fit of the implementation itself with the training of the users, and the go live can be done very quickly because the onboarding is very well prepared. The milestones are defined, and also the bottlenecks and the challenges are already detected at the assessment at the beginning. So why, for example, why we do this? One point is we want to see how the work is distributed in a laboratory. And how we do this is by using a Lean Six Sigma tool called multi-moment analysis. And in this example, it shows in a pie chart how this distribution of lab work is split up. And you can see the 2 red parts. That's our kind of administration work, paperwork, value determination, calculations, documentations, archiving, and reporting, kind of for test reports or certificate of analysis. This combines, or these 2 workloads combines, gets nearly to 50% of a daily work time of a full-time lab employee. This means that half of the time is just burned for data administration, data management. This leads to that the lab technician can do, or the scientists can do even more analytics, can you provide more analysis, or can you approve more samples, test more samples, can do more conductions. This leads to less money and burned time and money. And we ask at that point a question to how much value is actually generated at that stage before we can have to clear what kind of a value has to be provided and has to be generated. But this is a very important question at the assessment stage, to make or to bring or level up the lab from a cost center to a profit center. Another tool that we are using is a SIPOC, Stakeholder Input Process Output. Customer is a very well-known tool. This can also be related to a value stream map, and it's used to map the most important quality or lab operations. Define the media breaks, define the disruptions, define the format and the goal of this operation. And there are kind of tips or simple rules that can be more important to keep an eye on through this assessment, and also most important points which are customized for this to keep an eye on through the implementation, which is also joint effort and efficiency to bring all the data and the communication on a standard which is interacting to each other. Build confidence by using basic structures, that some standard operation procedures are always done the same way. This leads to trust in more results and all the data and documentation. Enhance communication for more information exchange. So this is one of my personal most underrated skill in the laboratory, the communication itself. And the last point here is the empowerment through involvement, which is also an important point at the assessment at the beginning of the implementation, to take all the scientists and lab technicians on board. What are the goals and what brings to daylight about an assessment? There are kind of lab or quality KPIs we can define. One big point is to kind of a groundbreaking layout of the infrastructure that is used, kind of the landscape of the systems, the devices that are used. Then to bring the key figures and bring them in relations, quantify the daily operations of the lab itself. In this example, we have 3 lab technicians, we have 10 lab devices, and we have roughly 10,000 samples per year. This leads to 200 samples per week, roughly. What we can calculate out of that by breaking down and taking assumptions in exchange with the lab manager together, how much time is needed for a sample preparation, for a sample documentation, for labeling, and adding these numbers and bring them in calculation, this sums up that roughly 90 hours per week are used for data management. This is a lot, just by 3 lab technicians. What this means exactly in numbers is that 75% of 3 full-time employees are entirely quality data management, are using their time for quality data management. And if we can break this down for kind of costs, in real life costs, this leads to roughly 30,000 euros per year, which is thrown out of the window just by using manual data management. And even some of the data are not traced, tracked, and the data evaluation is not included. So this is kind of highly cost. Most of the lab managers don't be aware of to have kind of such numbers in front of and know to handle that. To give a background why we do this assessment and also the optimization before we start with the digitalization and implementation of a LIMS application is if we see it on a graph between efficiency and effectiveness. So most of them think that one solution, one tool can be the solution for all of their problems. We can break down the processes, we can do this by site, this can be done within the daily business, and they struggle by just using a tool which also optimizing their operations. And this means, this is kind of an easy formulation, but shitty operations or shitty workflows will be digitalized, still are shitty workflows. So that means that there are kind of a digitization of these error-prone operations and workflows. This leads a little more efficiency to them. They can be automated afterwards, but they are not much better than the manual workflows itself. We're focusing first on the process effectiveness, to streamline them, to make them better, to reach their goals faster and easier, and then start to digital or think of to start with digitalization and bring them into the digital age. This brings a value in 2 dimensions, and also to bring the mindset to the right dimension to think of the continuous improvement. What this means effective is, for example, that there are sample preparation can be done with automated labeling. They can be prepared before taking the samples in an easy way, and also some kind of stacking them, preparing them, that anyone from the lab team can come and can continue any kind of work in the lab because it's structured, it's organized, and it's always the same procedure how it works. And there is no missing sample that can be scanned and know exactly what to test and what kind of testing routine it has to be done. How does benefits and added value can bring the lab to the next level? What we have in focus as OneLIMS to digitalize the lab are fully platform, a laboratory information management system, which has a service middle layer to connect to device systems, to, in certain cases, also the devices itself, to give this interconnectivity to send orders and get back the values with metadata. Also to include ERP or production planning tools, logistic tools, to connect sensor data, to have insights into charts, into other article or product dates, data, and can combine those data and bring them a 360 degrees view of the quality data overall. And what we also have as standard included in the OneLIMS platform is an integration, an interface directly to global service labs and to the service they provide. But through the OneLIMS platform, you can send your orders and can get back the results of your samples. What does that mean, and what kind of added value does that bring? So what we have in here is a skill combination, development of solution which fosters motivation and growth. An efficiency boost for a standard structured LIMS, which leads to data management, which is very easy and understandable, with easy to use and a user-centric user interface. This can increase the quality assurance, quality control on lab workflows by over 50% in this specific case. The error can be reduced, the error rates through the operations and also the data by over 80%. And it can be more sustainable by get as much paperless as possible. This reduces also mega breaks and time. In this hard fact, and within this example, real-life example of this laboratory, it can be done within the implementation 5 times more samples within the same FT and the same amount of time. And this is highly increasing of the sample throughput within a very short time. And also to get the numbers right is to have 60% more savings above the target of the values, to spend less money on the analysis by risk-based or dynamic analysis, and by doing less analysis, just the right ones, to get less samples lost and to need less time in data handling and data management. Good. To bring this on a closing for the improvement itself. Most of our clients tell after a while that a LIMS application, so OneLIMS specifically, is the cornerstone of their lab infrastructure. It is their most important tool they use every day and that enhance their performance of the whole lab team. They can be more available, can be more faster, can more adapt more quickly to changeable stakeholder requirements and needs. And one outlook from our side, we are highly collaborating with different leading companies and partners in Switzerland and all around Europe to enhance work in the lab, to make work lab more safer, more efficient, and to boost even more the performance of lab teams. This is one of our biggest goals, that also are the data which are used and created in a laboratory are easily accessible for everyone who is responsible and needs more accurate and traced data for that. We have some kind of innovative corporations for lab automations, which we collaborate also with robotics companies. And we have also a dedicated software development team where we develop new modules, new features, and even more services to provide more reliable lab work and make it more easy and supportive to work in a laboratory. Now I'm looking forward to all of your questions and hope that you can that you gained some insights from our daily work to digitalize laboratories. Back to you, Stefania.
Thank you very much, Philip. Amazing, this presentation, and it gets me always back to a few years ago when I had the same experience by digitalization of one of my labs, and waiting for some questions from the audience. Somebody is typing. In the meantime, I can also sure tell you, or I'll ask you, Philip, what are your personal experience, or what is the experience you have encountered during the process of implementing digitalization in a lab? Your personal experience.
So, what's the most important point? Is your question, or
Actually, your experience when you're doing together with a lab this changement of from paperwork to the digitalization. How did you felt?
no? I got it. Thanks for the explanation. It's from my point of view a very important question because this has a lot of to do with perception and expectation. And we know that we all love what we are doing and how we're doing it. And to start from a person like a team from one LIMS came into a lab and starting questioning the actual workflows, the daily operations, and to questioning how the scientists and the lab technician are working day by day. This brings a lot of people out of the comfort zone, and we're facing at the first side a lot of disliking, so that they don't want to change anything because they did it always that way, and to get the understanding that we want to help them, we want to support them to make their daily lab work easier, that they can do more what they like and love, kind of analysis, conductions, analytical stuff, and less paperwork, what most of the scientists in the lab hate and are not the best in it. So this is kind of the most challenging and the most important experience from my personal view, to talk eye to eye on the same level to them and explain them why they should start to think of different solutions and to start to think of a transformation through digitalization.
Thank you very much. Just a second. There is hi from Javier. Hi, are you sharing the slides? Thank you for the information you have shared with us. Quite interesting. I think I
Thanks.
can give you the email from Javier. Is that okay?
we can provide, we can share the presentation. If someone is interested, just let us know. You can scan the QR code and can connect with us anytime. Also, we are happy to get an inspiring exchange.
Okay, there is another one from Dennis. Are you actively approaching companies to conduct these assessments, or are they reaching out to you? And generally, are companies open to digitally transform?
The second question leads into what you asked before, Stefania. I want to give an answer to the first question. So, the most companies find us through searching in the internet, and we do our approach by the assessment for every digitalization project. Without any assessment, we didn't do any kind of implementation. And the cool thing is that we also just offer the assessment as a neutral, analyzes fitness health check for the lab operations. And we have some clients, they just do the assessment to have a neutral observation about their KPIs and how the lab operations are running. And then they look for other solutions or just stay as they are, just for a status quo. And most of the companies, they approach us to want to have one LIMS platform in place. They aren't really aware of how the operations or the health, they're not really aware of the health status of their workflow and lab operations. So we have to show them and bring the numbers in front to show the calculations and show what kind of boost of performance, efficiency, and effectiveness they will have if they're going to change X, Y, and Z.
Right, that's like this. Just Javier wrote again. I would also be interested if you are doing assessments. I think the email from Javier, I will give it to you. It's best, Philip, right?
Otherwise, let's have a call. Makes it easier than writing those.
Right, right. Maybe, oh, there are others. Thank you. How long does an assessment take on average? Dennis?
Good question. It depends a little bit, but we like to have it very quick, is 1 day on site, or in the meanwhile, through the pandemic, we had also the possibility to do this remote with 2 times 3 hours together with the lab team. If everyone is on board, it's also possible to do this remotely. And in bigger enterprises or bigger corporate companies, it takes at least 2 days to see the whole value chain, to see the lab, to know each other, and to have enough time to have interviews, to define the future states, and look into the operations of the laboratory. But in average, a day on site.
Yes, thank you also for this answering. Meanwhile, somebody's also writing. I have another question, Philip.
Please.
How do you ensure the security integrity of the data?
Very good question. We collaborate with bigger companies which provide cloud hosting and also cloud security. We are in a deep exchange with them to ensure that the data are as high security as possible and related to the actual and new standards for that. Also, what we apply to the requirements of the clients itself. So that means that we have a SaaS application as one LIMS platform, but we have also some clients, they have a private cloud, which we can connect to. We are not backed on any kind of specific cloud hosting service. So this can be adapted to the requirements of our clients. And at some very rare specifically cases, we also provide on-premise for in-house services.
Yes, that's good. That's very interesting. Javier asked, what countries are you in scope for assessments?
Also, nice question. We have right now partners and also clients all around the world. So what we did a couple of weeks ago is an assessment with a company in Canada in the metal industry. We have done some workshops with Virgin Islands. We have done some workshops with Spain, Pakistan, Australia, Japan. So this can be done remotely. And if it's not that far from, let's say, within Switzerland, Germany, Austria, or France, or Italy, we would prefer to have an on-site one-day workshop.
Okay, Rainer. Hi, Rainer. Another question. You have time, Philip, right?
Yes, please go.
Great. What cloud service you are working with or you can recommend?
Mhm. At the moment, we have a partnership with AWS, which we also kind of recommend or prefer. We also can rely on Azure if this is a requirement from our clients, or even Google Clouds. Or, as mentioned before, private clouds and so on, which rely on also our internal data security and cloud security rules, which we have.
Great, great, super. I think we have to cut here a little bit. There are maybe more questions. We will answer them on our webpage. It's an interesting theme that we have here. I love digitalization. Amazing what you can do with all this digitalization. And I think also some kind of eye opening because you look it from another side. First, with this analyzing and optimizing, and then go on to digitalization and automation. And I know what I'm speaking about, right, Philip? And
Yes.
I think it's really any kind. It can revolutionize small and bigger labs,
Mm,
sure, and enhance collaboration. Very important, as you also say, and truly inspiring. Thanks
mm.
again, Philip. And just don't forget to press the upper panel button, please, to register for the next webinar on the 20th of March, where Dr. Jeff Banks will take us into the thrilling world of how to solve the riddle of a root cause analysis and its importance of recovery from microbiology incidents. Thank you very much for attending and for being, as usual, a part of this journey.
Thanks again for having me. Thanks very much for this very good questions and for sharing also your time. And hope to hear from you or see you sometime in a webinar or in an online event. All
Great.
the best to you. Thank you very much, Stefania. Take care.
You're welcome. The
Yes.
same to you. Bye, Philip.
Bye bye.